Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for the UBC Engineering Ask Me Anything drop-in advising session. My name is Marie Reed, and I am the Project Manager, Programs and Strategy for the School of Engineering at the UBC Okanagan campus. My pronouns are she, her. Both UBC's campuses are built on lands that have been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. I would like to acknowledge the land that UBC has built its Vancouver campus on, which we work, learn, connect, and innovate, is the unceded, ancestral, and traditional territory of the Musqueam peoples. Our Okanagan campus, where I am situated, is in the territory of the Selix Okanagan Nation and their peoples. And I would also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places near and far and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. So the purpose of today's session is for you to basically ask me any questions that you have about UBC Engineering at the Vancouver or the Okanagan campus. I just want to preface that I'm not an admissions officer, so I'm not able to answer any specific questions about your application, but I'm happy to provide some guidance for where you can find answers to your questions. There is just a few notes that I wanted to go over before we dive right into a few of the slides I have for you today and then right into your questions in the Q&A. So a reminder that if you have or if you're experiencing any audio or video issues, you can adjust those settings at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And if you're still having issues, please feel free to reach out to me through either the Q&A or through the chat. This session is designed for you, so please feel free to submit your questions into the Q&A box, and that can be opened at the bottom of the Zoom screen. We ask that you submit your questions only once, and that way we have the opportunity to get to as many questions as possible. If you do see another question that you really want answered as well, you can upvote that question, and we're going to answer the questions with the most upvotes. We've also included many helpful resources in the resources tab. So that tab looks like papers stacked on top of each other. So if you click on that, you can view a lot of our resources. And basically these are links to different things like housing, our UBC engineering pages, some of the admission pages. If you click on those, it will take you to those external pages, but don't worry, you'll still be in this Zoom event with us as well. We have also created a downloadable PDF. So if you click on that resources tab and then click on documents, there's a downloadable PDF, and that's a summary of many of those resources in the resource tab that you could download and keep for future reference. Closed captioning is enabled, and you can enable this for yourself by clicking on the closed captioning button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And finally, if you're not able to stay for the entire session, that is totally fine. We are going to record this session and we're going to share it on YouTube in a few days. So this, as I mentioned, this session is going to consist mostly of answering your questions submitted in the Q&A. If I have answered your questions, it's totally up to you if you want to stay for the remainder of the session and listen, or you're more than welcome to leave as well. Again, this session is really for us to get your questions answered, so that is totally up to you. So I just wanted to start by going over some of our most common questions that we're receiving right now. And it's really, so you've applied, you may have heard back, you may not have heard back. So what is happening next? So UBC continues to send out admissions decision on a rolling basis. So some students here may have already received an offer, and some of them may still be waiting for an offer. The majority of the decisions are sent out in March and April. So the majority of the decisions are going out right now. Any updates to your application will be communicated to you first through your applicant service center. So please make sure that you're checking there. If you're having any trouble logging into that applicant service center, try using an incognito or a private browser. You can clear your cache or use a different browser altogether. We also want to remind you that UBC will always assess your first choice that you put on your application first. And if you are not admissible at that point in time, they will assess you for your second choice. If you have already been offered admission to your second choice, UBC will reassess you for admission to your first choice once your first term results are available. So that's typically what is happening right now. If UBC requires additional information from you, such as transcripts, they will let you know through your Applicant Service Center account. Depending on which document is required, this will determine how admissions may be asking for you to submit those documents. So for example, for unofficial transcripts, they may be uploaded to your Applicant Service Center, but other official documents may need to be sent from an issuing institution. For example, the College Board for AP results or IBO for IB results. So just make sure you read through your Applicant Service Center thoroughly for these type of requests and details. So just a reminder that offers are conditional. You must complete your offer of admission requirements and send your final grades by the given deadline in your offer letter. One of the conditions that you'll often see listed is to maintain your current academic average. So usually this means staying within a few percent, but the website How to Keep Your Offer is a really great resource and will give more specific requirements based on the curriculum that you are currently in. So scholarship decisions are typically released between mid-March to the end of April. So those are actually starting to go out anytime right now. Successful candidates will be notified separately by email. So please make sure, again, you're up to date on your emails. There are no UBC scholarship applications that are open at this time. However, if you're interested in exploring external awards or scholarships, we recommend searching things like engineering, STEM, women in engineering, or women in STEM to see what external scholarships might be available. In regards to finances, UBC has developed a great first-year cost calculator, which can help you estimate your cost in first year, such as tuition, housing, food, books, technology, etc. And this is a really great tool to help you prepare for your first year. And if you're interested in on-campus housing, please visit the campus housing websites for more details about the upcoming deadlines, the cost for housing, and any other questions that you may have. On-campus housing at both campuses offers first-year guaranteed housing. So this is for incoming first-year students. So if you meet the eligibility requirement as an incoming first-year student and you submit your application by May 1st, you will be considered for that first-year guaranteed housing. So please remember, though, that there are different housing applications for each campus. So if you're unsure of which campus you're attending yet, you may want to consider either applying for housing at both campuses. If you do have an offer before May 1st, then you can just make sure you apply to the campus you're planning to attend before that May 1st deadline. So now I just wanted to go over a few of the high-level items for UBC Engineering at both the Vancouver and Okanagan campuses, some of the most common questions that we get, and then I'm going to dive into the questions that I see are coming into the Q&A. So if you choose to join us at UBC, you're going to be joining a university which is globally recognized for its excellence in teaching and research, as well as its global impact. We have students in attendance today who may have applied to the Okanagan campus, the Vancouver campus, or both. While the feel of each campus will be quite different, both campuses' engineering programs are equally prestigious and accredited, where you will be learning or working with professors who are leaders in their fields. The UBC Okanagan campus currently has 5 engineering programs. At the Okanagan campus, engineering students are guaranteed placement in their first choice engineering program. And what this means is if you want civil engineering, you are guaranteed a seat in civil engineering. Students will select their program at the end of their first year of study. The programs currently accepting new students at the Okanagan campus is civil, computer, electrical, and mechanical engineering. So as I mentioned, engineering students select their program at the end of their first year of study. So we have something called a foundational first year, and this is where engineering students are really taking their whole first year together. They're taking courses that are the foundation for their degree, such as engineering, chemistry, English, engineering design. And that also allows you to take that whole first year to learn about all of our programs and which program is the right fit for you. If you're a transfer student who is here today, who has been admitted into year 2, you will receive information about how to select your program before registration from our engineering academic services teams. So at the Vancouver campus, there are 14 engineering programs for students to choose from. At the Vancouver campus, placement into these programs is also at the end of your first year of study. However, this is a competitive process, and some programs may have additional requirements such as interview or specific course prerequisites. Overall, students will get a lot more information about the program placement process and requirements throughout their first year. Select top applicants for the Vancouver campus may also be offered guaranteed placement into one of 13 of the undergraduate programs, with the exception of engineering physics. These offers will begin to go out to admitted students sometime in February, so some of you may have already received these, but they will continue going out to eligible students all throughout the spring. So even without guaranteed placement, you can be assured that roughly 90% of first years will get into one of their top choices, and placement is primarily based on grades. So making sure you are set up to be academically successful will be one of the things that will really help you to get into one of your top choice programs. So if there's any students here today interested in biomedical engineering, there is also a pre-biomedical timetable that allows you to specialize your courses a little further in first year to better prepare you for biomedical engineering. Once you're admitted to the Vancouver campus, you will receive email with more details about this. And there actually still is some information sessions happening in April if you want to attend one of those to just learn more about that. So my last slide before we jump into the questions today is really about how you can customize your degree. It's really one of the best things about pursuing a Bachelor of Applied Science at UBC is the ability to add in some of these extra experiential learning opportunities that really enhance your degree and the skills that you learn throughout that degree. So if we talk about curriculum, from the very start, students are exposed to hands-on design projects where you work in teams right from your first year. You're going to have courses year after year that continue to build on those project-based team learning experiences, culminating in your final year with Capstone, which basically is a year-long course where you get to work with industry or a research lab to solve a real-world problem. So this is a great way to apply all of the knowledge that you've learned in the last 4 years. Another way students like to get involved is to get involved in research. So there's a variety of ways you can do that. We have scholarship opportunities for paid research positions. There's different things called work study or work learn that professors can apply for funding for undergraduate students to do research in their lab. And there's also potentially volunteer positions. So if you're interested in research, we highly recommend that you look at the labs available, the type of research that they're doing, and you reach out to those profs directly. You may also want to pursue a minor or a dual degree, and these are really will allow you to focus on a secondary area of study. You might want to consider going abroad to work, research, or study in your third year, and we have some great Go Global and coordinated international experience programs that can be integrated into your degree. Maybe you'll find a passion by joining a design team, and this really allows you to design and create projects outside the classroom, but also is a really great way to find your community as a first-year student coming to a new campus. And then lastly, co-op is a really big conversation. A lot of people are interested in co-op. Co-op is really that opportunity for you to gain paid work experience throughout your degree. Co-op is optional at UBC for engineering students, but if it is something that you are interested in, we do have a lot of information about that. We actually hosted a complete co-op session earlier this month, so there's a recording about co-op on our website. So that is it for the few slides that I wanted to go over before we go into the Q&A. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to open up the Q&A. Just 1 second. All right, let's see what we have here. So if you are just joining us today, the rest of the session is going to be really me answering any questions that you have about UBC Engineering. Just a reminder that I'm not an admissions officer, so I'm not able to talk about your application specifically, but I'm happy to direct you to the correct resources if you have any of those type of questions. If you're just joining us, you can ask your question by clicking on the Q&A button, which basically looks like a little bubble with a question mark in the middle. Okay, so the first question here is, how does the co-op program work at UBC Engineering? Will the students need to find internships themselves, or will UBC assist and guide them? Great question. So at UBC, we have an applied science co-op program. So this co-op program is just for engineering students at the Vancouver and Okanagan campus. It is an optional program, so you would choose if you would like to apply to be a part of that program. Students can apply to co-op program at the beginning of their second or beginning of their third year of study. If they're able to join the co-op program, and as long as you meet the eligibility requirements, you should be able to join that co-op program. Then you will be doing some training. So you're going to be trained on how to write your resume, your cover letter, interview skills with our co-op team. So at both campuses, there are co-op advisors that are really here to help you get prepared for applying for jobs and to really help you in that job search. If you're in co-op, you're also have access to the co-op job board. So employers post their jobs on there and you have exclusive access to that co-op job board. So for your question about finding internships yourself, you won't have to find them yourself. You can go onto that co-op job board, but you will have to apply to those jobs and interview. Getting a co-op position is not guaranteed. You do have to put in the work. You do have to do those applications and do those interviews, and you are competing against other co-op students at UBC and of course other co-op students at other institutions, as employers will typically post co-op jobs across many institutions. But you do have a lot of assistance, you have a lot of guidance. Our co-op advisors are great. They're there to help if you want to do mock interviews or ask any questions you may have about this process. So I hope that has answered your question. We do have a link in our resources tab, which again, just a reminder, is the papers stacked on top of each other. If you want to go to the co-op website, and there's a lot of great information about how co-op works, how you apply, and how that's integrated into your degree. Just a reminder, if you decide to do co-op, it does add a year onto your degree because you're doing at least 16 months of paid work experience, and those are spread throughout summer terms, fall, and spring terms. So it will add 1 year to your degree. Let's see the next question here. How does major selection work for a year 2 admit to the Vancouver campus in applied science? So I'm assuming that you are a transfer student who has asked this question saying a year 2 admit. So if you are a transfer student that has already been admitted into year 2, congratulations, that's great. Our engineering academic services team are going to reach out to you with the next steps for that program placement. At the Vancouver campus, program placement is competitive. So you will be competing to get into one of the 14 engineering programs at the Vancouver campus. Program placement typically opens sometime usually in mid-March to the end of March, all the way until May. So you should start receiving information about that sometime in the next few weeks. Okay. Okay, so great question. The question is, would you please speak about how first year schedules can be adjusted for those with accommodations who need a lighter course load? For example, could a student take 4 to 5 courses per term and then take the remaining first year courses during the summer? So that is a really great question, and that is slightly different for each campus. So first, I just want to preface by saying that if you are taking a course load that is not within the four-year degree plan, so not 6 courses per term, I highly recommend that you meet with an engineering advisor to review which courses you should be taking and how that will impact your degree. That is because there is considerations of which courses you should take first because they are prerequisites for courses in second year. So what that means is that if you haven't completed a certain first year course, it will affect your ability to take that second year course because you need the knowledge from the first year course in order to take a second year course. I hope that makes sense. For the UBC Okanagan engineering program, we actually offer a 4-year and a 5-year degree plan. So a 4-year degree plan is 6 courses per term, and if you successfully complete all of those 6 courses each year, you can graduate within the 4-year timeline. The 5-year degree plan, you take 5 courses per term, and if you successfully complete all 5 courses each term over the 5 years, you will graduate within a 5-year degree timeline. At the Okanagan campus, we do offer summer courses, so there is ability to catch up typically between a 5-year and 4-year degree timeline if you decide you want to transition to 6 courses after first year. However, we do offer those 2 plans for students who would like a lighter course load. If you are looking for a course load of 4 courses per term, that is totally fine as well. I would just recommend talking to advisor to decide which 4 courses you should be taking first. If you are looking for accommodations, we do have accessibility advisors and offices at both campuses. So we did have a really great session about Success Starts Here, where we had one of our accessibility advisors join us from the Okanagan campus, but he spoke to resources at both campuses. So if you are looking for or if you need to apply for accommodations, I highly recommend looking into how that process works, because it is usually something that you need to apply for quite early in your first term. So now if I move to the Vancouver campus, because program placement is at the end of your first year, there are specific requirements to be able to meet second year standing to be able to apply for program placement. So you need to have completed at least 9 first-year courses to be able to apply for program placement at the Vancouver campus. And so if you are thinking that you would like to take a lighter course load, I definitely would chat with advisors at the Engineering Academic Services team at the Vancouver campus to really lay out what is the best plan for you so that you can still apply for your program and start taking second-year courses with remaining first-year courses. They would also be the best resource to tell you which first-year courses are typically offered in the summer if you're trying to catch up in the summer. So I hope that answers your question there. Overall, it is possible, but please make sure you map out that degree with advisors. Okay, so my scholarship letter says that the scholarship is only valid for 1 year and cannot be renewed. Can you tell me if there will be other scholarships after first year? That's a great question. So, depending if you're a domestic or international student, there are different scholarships that are offered second, third, or fourth year. I highly recommend that you go to the UBC scholarship webpage, and on that you can actually there's a section for continuing students, so students who are already at UBC, and what type of scholarships are offered. Keep in mind that there is scholarships that could be added at your time here. So what you're seeing is what is available right now for our continuing students. Some of these scholarships could be based on your grades, so maintaining certain averages to have a continuing scholarship. Other scholarships or bursaries may be available depending on other factors, such as participation in leadership, for an example, or other sort of skills that you're learning throughout that degree. So I highly recommend that you look at the Central UBC, and then you can also look at the Faculty of Applied Science web pages for more details about continuing scholarships. So can a first-year student take a second-year course in first year if they got credit for their first-year course? That's a really great question. So at the Okanagan campus, if you have the prerequisite for a second-year course, you are able to take that in your first year. Just wanted to also state that you just need to make sure you know which engineering program that you would like to go into. Honestly, in your first year, I would recommend, like, if you have the chance to take a lighter course load, that is not a bad thing. Transitioning to university is a lot. You're potentially could be living on your own for the first time. You could be moving to a new city. You're finding your community on campus while taking these courses, and you're also getting accustomed to the academic learning environment at a university. So typically our recommendation is if you got credit, say, for one of your calculus courses and you feel like you want to take that transfer credit, it might be a great opportunity for you to actually have a little bit of a lighter course load that first year. Just one second. Just got to turn this light back on. Just one second. Yeah, great opportunity for you to have that lighter course load so you can spend that extra time maybe checking out clubs or new opportunities on campus and just getting accustomed to transitioning to university. If you really want to have that full course load, say 6 courses per term, at that point you want to go chat with those engineering academic advisors, see if there's a course that you have credit for and that would fit in your timetable as well. At the Vancouver campus, because you're going into separate departments when you're choosing your program, I'm going to have to refer you to the Engineering Academic Services team to see if it's possible to take any second-year courses as part of your first year. There are different humanities electives. In Vancouver, you take a humanities elective in your first year and in your second year. So there potentially is options there, but you definitely want to chat with an advisor to see what is the right plan for you. Okay. Let's see here. Are there any hands-on practical courses where I can work with tools such as a metal shop where you get to learn welding? Great question. So depending on the program you select, there are many different hands-on practical courses. Applied Science is a super hands-on program right from first year. So when you enter the foundational first year, you're going to be taking an engineering design course in both terms. Depending if you're at the Okanagan or Vancouver campus, those projects look a little bit different, but they're all hands-on, like you're solving a real-world problem and you're typically building something. So at the Vancouver campus, they do a cardboard chair challenge in one of their first-year engineering design courses. At the Okanagan campus, we have a CAD/CAM course where you are designing and usually 3D printing a solution to a real world problem. Historically, this has involved, like one of them that was last year was developing a solution for hotspots after forest fires. So all of the teams had to actually develop a solution that would solve that problem and present how that would work. After that, when you go into your program specifically, the hands-on types of courses can be different depending on which program you go into. For example, if at the Okanagan campus in third year, if you're a mechanical student, you would take like a machine processing type course, and that involves a lot of time in our machine shop where you get to use the actual equipment. So the drill presses, the welding, the large water jet cutters, and you will be building something, whatever that project is, using all of those machines. This may be different, say, if you want to go into civil, your hands-on courses may be more about making concrete and figuring out how strong it is, looking at different types of materials and soils. So depending on the type of engineering you're going into, those hands-on design courses will look different, but you will definitely get hands-on opportunities at both campuses. So there's a question here. Is it possible to study mechanical engineering as a major and minor in something else? How would that work? So yes, we have minors available at both campuses. So specifically at the Vancouver campus, they have minors in arts, entrepreneurship, commerce, honors math, and science. At the Okanagan campus, we have minors in arts, computer science, and in management. So how that would work is you would pick your program, and then you can also apply to add a minor onto your degree. Typically, adding a minor, it's adding a whole secondary area of study. So you can expect it to add about a year onto your degree. So if that's the type of minor you're referring to, that's how that process works. If you're talking about majoring in mechanical engineering and maybe you're thinking of minoring in another type of engineering, we're not able to major in one type and minor in another type. You're going to be selecting your program. If you are interested in sort of a program that combines different type of engineering, I would recommend looking into integrated engineering at the Vancouver campus or engineering physics. Both of those programs do have a combination of different types of engineering. Engineering physics typically is like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and physics. Integrated engineering does allow you to major and minor in two types of engineering if you're in the integrated engineering program. So if you are interested in having sort of a degree that combines multiple types of engineering, I would recommend looking into integrated engineering at the Vancouver campus. Okay, let me see here. So I see there's a question here from someone who has been admitted to the Okanagan campus. They're talking about the conditions that are set out in their offer letter. 1% is down. Okay, so the question overall is about how to maintain your offer. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up this link. So, how to keep your offer admission. So, if you are, in this instance, the student is a domestic student from Canada and is referring to how to keep their offer if they have any change in grades. So, on this How to Keep Your Offer website, depending on your curriculum, it really goes over how UBC will assess your offer to make it final after your final grades are in. So the final grades in all academic courses in grade 11 or grade 12, if it's fallen 2% or more, that is something that UBC would look at, or if final grade in courses in subjects related to your degree has fallen 4% or more. Okay, there are also some specific requirements for the Vancouver campus here. So the question here is there's one of their subjects is down 5%. Okay, so I wouldn't be too concerned about this right now. They're going to look at your final grades. If you have any specific questions or you're really concerned about 1 mark, remember it's the average of all the academic courses that you've taken in grade 11 and grade 12. So if you have a little, like a more than a percentage in one course, you have to remember that UBC is looking at the average across all of the courses. It's hard for me to assess exactly from the message here, so you can email me at engineering.okanagan@ubc.ca. And you can share a little bit more detailed information with me, and I'm happy to answer that question for you in more detail. But just as an overview, they're looking at all of the academic courses and all of the grade 11 and grade courses in the subject area related to the chosen degree. So one course may not necessarily, if it's like really close to this percentage window, is not necessarily something you should be too worried about right now. Okay. Okay, so I have a question here about transferring. So if someone gets into engineering and then decides, oh, you know what, that's not right for me, or say you were admitted into computer science and said, oh, I want to transfer into engineering, how does transferring work after first year? So there's a couple different layers here. So I'm going to kind of just break down the transfer process and how that works at UBC. So if you are in engineering at the Vancouver campus, you're in your first year, and then you decide that you want to transfer to the Okanagan campus. This is done through our engineering program placement form. So that is actually the form where you select your program, but you would just be selecting the Okanagan campus as your first choice, as your program placement, and then that would basically start your transfer application. So this process is for students who are in first year and who are going to complete all of their first year courses within the September to April timeline. Now, the same process will apply if you're at Okanagan and you want to transfer to the Vancouver campus. You would just do the opposite. You would pick the Vancouver campus programs as your top choice on the engineering program placement form. I just want to, before I move on to the more general transfer, for transfer within engineering between campuses, it is quite competitive. There are usually only 10 to 15 seats for students to transfer. So if at all possible, we highly recommend you start in the program and at the campus that is your first choice. So if you're in engineering and you want potentially to transfer to computer science or business, or if you're in a different program, you want to transfer into engineering, and you're already at UBC in your first year, you can do that through, you can apply to do that through the campus. It's a program and campus change form. So that's something that would show up on your applicant service center, and that's something that will show up after you arrive here. You can actually apply to either transfer to a different campus, a different program, a different campus, or you can apply to transfer between programs at the campus that you're currently at. So let's give an example here. You're in engineering and you think you want to transfer to business as the question states. So at that point, you would be applying to the business program through that campus or program change form. I can't speak to how difficult it is to transfer into another faculty at our campus, or the process of how they would assess that. If you're interested in transferring, if a student is interested in transferring into engineering from another faculty, for engineering, they would be assessed as a general post-secondary transfer. So what that means is that they would be assessed against all other post-secondary transfers applying into our program. If in first year you decide that engineering isn't right for you and you would like to transfer to a different program, I highly recommend you go talk to an advisor to understand what the admission process is for that program and what specific courses they would be looking for. Depending on the number of courses you have in post-secondary, they may also look at your high school courses. So I hope that answers your question. The thing to remember is this application typically closes at January 15th, aligning with the UBC deadline. So if you are interested in transferring between programs, you want to make sure that you're talking to advisors sometime in your first term at UBC. Okay. So great question. There's a question here about when do we get more information about courses that we need to register in our first year, and how does that work? We are going to be having, like, our engineering advisors at both campuses are going to be hosting sessions and or sending registration information via email. So you are going to get a ton of information about how to register for your courses, what courses you're going to be registering in. And then this differs slightly depending if you're coming to the Okanagan or the Vancouver campus. So you will receive specific details about those processes from the advisors at each of those campuses. The thing to keep in mind is the majority of your courses are set, as in for engineering in your first year, you're all going to be taking the same courses. If you're at the Vancouver campus, you're also going to be registering in a humanities elective. So that is something that you would be selecting as per the guidelines for the Vancouver campus. But all the other courses you're taking are foundational courses for engineering. At the Okanagan campus, all of our first year courses are foundational courses for engineering, and you're going to be taking all of the same courses. Your humanities elective at the Okanagan campus is in second year, so that's something that you would be selecting later. So don't worry, our advisors are going to be sending you lots of information about that. So that's something that if you've been admitted and accepted your offer, you can be expecting typically in late April, early May. I have a question here. Is it possible to do co-op program within 4 years instead of 5? As the website says, it's 4 years. So I'm just going to, I'm not sure exactly which webpage you're referring to, but For engineering programs at UBC, you can complete an undergraduate degree in 4 years. So that's completing all of the required academic courses. If you successfully complete all of those, you can complete your program within 4 years. If you decide that you would like to add the co-op program as part of your degree and you complete the required 16 months, which is 4 work terms, it will add a year onto your degree. And that is because you need to, when you're in a co-op work term, you cannot be taking courses at the same time. You will have at least 1 work term in the summer between April and September, 1 work term between winter term 1, which is September to the end of December, and 1 work term in winter term 2, which is January to the end of April. So based on that, you can see that we'll add 1 year onto your degree. In co-op, you can actually do 20 months of work experience, and those other 2 terms are typically the other 2 summer terms. So you can have potentially 3 summer terms, and then you'll have at least 1 in winter term 1, winter term 2. Depending on the company that you are working with on your co-op work terms, some students also decide to extend their work terms and stay at that company. So it all is, it's quite individual depending on your experience. And that's why we have co-op advisors who work with our academic advisors to make sure that you can stay on track with your degree progression. So if you decide to do co-op, you can still graduate within that 5-year timeline. Okay, so there's a question here about for the Vancouver campus that some students are offered guaranteed placement in their 2nd-year program. Can you please speak to this and when, how a student would receive this in their offer? So students at the Vancouver campus, they're academically, like the top applicants may receive guaranteed placement into one of the 13 programs. This excludes engineering physics. So these offers typically are going out, they would have started going out mid-February, and they continue to go out throughout the spring as students are admitted and assessed. In the email from Engineering Academic Services, there will be information about how this works, how that guarantee process works. You do need to keep a certain average throughout your 1st year to maintain that guaranteed placement, but all of that details will be shared with the students who receive the guaranteed placement offer via email. Okay, let's see here. Are there any courses where students typically underestimate difficulty in 1st year? I applied for 1st-year housing last week, and what is the usual wait receiving a reply? Okay, so 2 questions here. So the first one is courses where students typically underestimate difficulty. So honestly, I've chatted with a lot of 1st-year students. I actually completed the mechanical engineering program myself at the Okanagan campus quite a few years ago. And it's really dependent student to student which courses are more difficult for them. There is groupings of courses that are historically more difficult for a cohort. Those usually include the heavy physics courses at both campuses. The calculus courses are usually the ones that are more academically rigorous courses. At the Okanagan campus, we offer supplemental learning and subject tutoring for these historically difficult courses. So there's a lot of great resources at both campuses for courses we know are difficult for a lot of the students. However, there may be a course, for some people, the 1st-year English course may actually be the most difficult course for them. So it's really dependent person to person. The great thing is that our professors offer office hours. So great way for 1st-year students to go and ask questions they have. Honestly, that is one of my biggest advices for students is that you take advantage of those office hours and you start going to office hours early in term 1, and you don't want to start going right before your midterm. Make sure you're getting those questions answered as they come up. And then, like I said, there's a lot of different tutoring services and supplemental learning services on both campuses for those courses. And we're going to share all of that information when you arrive on campus. So there's a lot of great resources that students are able to access. And then my last tip around, especially 1st term, getting used to the academics at university settings is if you can form a study group. Honestly, studying with your friends is great. One of your friends may, that course may be easier for them. They can help you, you can help them in a course that they find difficult, but you find easier. Having those connections is really important and helps you guys learn together. In regards to the question for first year housing, that's great that you already applied. So like I said, if you're eligible as an incoming first year student for that first year housing guarantee, then you should be good and you should be guaranteed that housing. I'm just checking the date here for when you should hear back from housing. So the deadline is May 1st for both campuses, and you usually will hear back in early June. So if you qualified for first year guarantee, you're going to receive a housing offer in early June. So if you haven't received something at that point, you can definitely reach out to Vancouver, Okanagan Housing, whichever one you apply to. But if you do qualify for that first year guarantee, you should hear in early June. Okay. Okay, is it possible to connect with a current first year student when I show up to visit campus on April 10th? That's really great that you're visiting one of the Vancouver or Okanagan campuses. That's fantastic. Depending on which campus you're at, please feel free to reach out to Erin Fair is my colleague at the Vancouver campus, and I'm going to show their email shortly in a few minutes. I recommend if you're coming to the Vancouver campus, you reach out to her to see who is available and who might be able to meet with you on April 10th. If you're at the Okanagan or being admitted or you're planning to come to the Okanagan campus, you can reach out to me at the engineering.okanagan@ubc.ca email address, which I'll show shortly on a slide. I'm happy to see if any of our students are available to meet and chat with you. If you're attending a campus tour at the Okanagan campus, I can let you know that they are typically ran by current first year students, not necessarily an engineering student, even though I know there are several student ambassadors who are engineering students who run those tours. But you will definitely be able to meet with a first year student who is running a campus tour. In the meantime, though, applied science, so we have our own chat with a student platform. So if you just Google UBC Engineering chat with a student, we have many students, current engineering students from the Vancouver and Okanagan campus. And you can ask them any questions you'd like about student experience on that platform. It's called the TAP platform. It pretty much opens up like an app on your phone, and it's like text messaging. You can look through the student profiles and find one that maybe is in the program you're interested in or is on hobbies you're interested in, and ask them about their student experience as well. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I'm just going to put a link in the chat because I see there's another question here about the guaranteed placement at the Vancouver campus. So just one second. I'm just going to grab the specific link for that. So the specific question that is being asked here is what academic average is required for guaranteed placement, and when will we receive the email about them if we do get accepted? So the Faculty of Applied Science is offering it to select top applicants. So there isn't specific information about the admissions requirements for guaranteed placement. But if you have been admitted to guaranteed placement at the Vancouver campus, students who are admitted must achieve a sessional average of at least 80% while taking 30 or more credits over the first 2 winter terms at UBC to remain eligible to choose placement in one of the participating programs and be guaranteed placement. So I'm just going to share this link here. Second. Okay. So this is the engineering program placement webpage. If you go to that webpage under eligibility, there is a guaranteed placement section there. And then there's also a link to guaranteed placement facts. So lots of great Q&A or facts here that will probably answer many of your questions related to guaranteed placement at the Vancouver campus. Okay. Okay, so a question here for transfer students. Does your program placement selection form get submitted before or after accepting your offer of admission as a transfer? So you're going to do your program placement after you accept your offer. So once you've accepted your offer, that's when you would get information about the program placement process at the Okanagan or Vancouver campus. So it said about guaranteed engineering programs at the UBC Okanagan campus. What do you mean by them being guaranteed? Okay, so at the Okanagan campus, we have guaranteed placement for all of our programs for all of our students for engineering. So what that means is that all of our engineering students who accept their offer will enter the foundational first year. You're going to do the 12 courses of the foundational first year, and at the end of your first year, that is when you get to select your program. Because placement is guaranteed for all students at the Okanagan campus, the form is quite simple. You're just telling us which program you would like to move into starting in year 2. So what that means is if you want civil engineering at the Okanagan campus, you are guaranteed a seat in civil engineering. At the end of your first year, you're just letting us know which program you want to continue with. So there's a question here about minors. We did review that a little bit. The minors are available for basically a minor is something you add on to any of your engineering programs. So if you're interested in a minor, that would be something you're doing as a secondary area of study. So you would choose your engineering program, for example, mechanical engineering or chemical engineering, and then you could also apply to add a minor onto your degree. Okay. There are things called options or concentrations that are only available within some engineering programs. So an example of that would be like an aerospace concentration or option for mechanical engineering students. And that is basically a grouping of courses. So specific courses within that program that allow you to specialize within an area. So within this example, that would be aerospace. There's a few questions here about continuing scholarships. So like I mentioned before, there are scholarships for students who are in year 2, 3, or 4. There's different types of them. So I highly recommend you go to the UBC scholarship page. There is a link to like a continuing studies or continuing student scholarship. So you can check out all the different ones that are available. There are some that are faculty specific, and there's also some that are based purely on grades, and some could also be related to, say, like the leadership or different types of skills you have done throughout your degree. And part of that application is you showing those skills. You can also look for scholarships from EGBC, so Engineers and Geoscientists BC. There are different types of scholarships they have for continuing students as well. Great question here. Besides doing projects at UBC, what would you recommend for expanding my network and preparing for the future? So there are so many amazing ways to build your network and prepare for your future in engineering at UBC. So at both campuses, we have a lot of professional development opportunities. So we have a mentorship program for engineering students at the Vancouver and Okanagan campus. If you decide to be a part of a mentorship program, which you can join right from your first year, you would be matched with a senior student as well as someone from industry. So this is a great way if you're incoming first year student to get some advice for your degree from a senior student, but also to hear about how to transition to industry, maybe more about what it's like day to day in that industry. A lot of great advice and feedback through that mentorship program. We also have industry nights or career fairs at both campuses. This is a great way for you to connect directly with many different engineering companies, learn more about their companies, what they're looking for, and build your network. There are several other opportunities as well at both campuses that students can apply for. So co-op again is a really great way for you to build your network and gain paid work experience throughout your degree. There's also, I'm trying to think of some other programs here. Design teams are also a really great way to build your network. Great way to build your network within your program, but a lot of our design teams receive sponsorship from different companies. They also compete nationally and internationally sometimes, so you build your network across other institutions as well. So those are really great opportunities to meet more people and be able to build transferable skills, which are very much needed in industry, but also have those connections with alumni and industry in the field. So I have time for one more question. So I'm just going to do a scan here to see if I can combine a few. So I see there's quite a few questions here about co-op. So definitely recommend you guys open the resources tab, click on that co-op link and check out that website because many of these questions can be answered directly on the website related to salary. Thank you, Kayla, for popping up that link for me. And related to salary and when those terms would be, as well as the process for applying. So please take a look at that. There's a few questions here about scholarships. So if you have any questions about your scholarship application or if you've received a scholarship and you have questions, please reach out to the email address that would be on your scholarship offer, or you can reach out to admissions if you have any questions about that. There's a few questions here about related to admission. So if you have any questions about your application, please reach out through the UBC admissions contact form to ask admissions specifically. The last question I'm going to respond to right now is about technology that is recommended for engineering programs. So we actually have computer recommendations listed on both of our campuses. So I'm just going to pull those links for you guys and share them in the chat. So at the Okanagan campus, we have computer and calculator recommendations on our first year essentials page, which I'm just sharing in the chat here. And then grab the Vancouver one as well. Okay, so the Vancouver computer requirements are just under their UBC Engineering Facts page. And that can be found under the new to UBC Start of Term tab on the link that I just shared in the chat with everyone. So I'm just going to share my screen again here quick. I just want to share our email addresses if anybody has any other questions following today. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So a lot of you had a lot of great questions today. So thank you so much for joining me and asking those questions. I know I wasn't able to get through all of the questions, So if you do have questions that are student experience related, like I mentioned earlier, we have a great chat with a student platform. It's called the TAP platform, the ambassador platform. We have engineering ambassadors from both the Vancouver and Okanagan campus who are happy to answer any questions you have about their student experience. We do have a few more events coming up throughout April. If you are interested in that pre-biomedical engineering timetable, I saw there was a few questions that were very specific to this. I highly recommend that you try to attend the pre-biomedical engineering timetable information session on April 9th. We also have a Meet Your First Year Prof session on April 22nd. So we have first year profs from both the Vancouver and Okanagan campus from the engineering departments coming. They're going to share their tips and tricks about your first year, as well as what you can expect in some of those first year courses. And then if you have some more questions throughout April, of course, you can always email Erin and myself, but we do have another Ask Me Anything drop-in session on April 28th, and Erin and I will both be there at that session. So for those of you who had some pretty specific questions today or have additional questions that maybe I wasn't able to get to today, if it's a question for the Vancouver campus, you can email Erin Fair at outreach@appsi.ubc.ca. If it's a question for the Okanagan campus for engineering, you can email me at engineering.okanagan@ubc.ca. So that is going to be all for this session today. I just want to thank all of you for joining today. You had some fantastic questions. I hope I was able to answer a majority of your questions today. I hope you have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you're joining me from. And I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you in September at either the Vancouver or Okanagan campus. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.